Numeric domains are elusive to many investors, mainly because a single country is driving acquisitions. Who's doing it and how much are they worth? Stay tuned, it might surprise you. I have 3 short sponsor messages before we get into today's show. First, if you have a great domain name and nothing to show when people visit, you're missing out on potential advertising revenue, leads, and partnership opportunities. Nichewebsites.com can build you a site quickly with a price option to suit any need. But as their tagline says, they don't just build websites, they build businesses. Second, if you're buying or selling a domain name or a portfolio and you want an estimate of its value, Estimate.com is the place to go. Just like you'd visit Zillow.com to get an estimate of a house value, Estimate.com provides key information about the most important statistics so you can make an informed decision based on data. Finally, DNX.com is a domain name exchange that uses a reverse auction platform to provide fair market prices for quality domain names that are manually filtered by an experienced broker. At DNX.com, domain prices drop until someone decides the price is right. But don't wait too long or the domain you love might be purchased by someone else. All 3 sponsors have a clickable banner in the upper right-hand corner of DomainSherpa.com. Here's your program. Hey everyone, my name is Michael Seiger and I'm the publisher of DomainSherpa.com, the website where you come to learn how to become a successful domain name investor and entrepreneur directly from the experts. Listed on the DNJournal.com, top domain sales of 2013 are 114.com for $2.1 million, 88888.com, that's 58s.com for $245,000, and 1001.com for $100,000. I would not have paid reg fee for any of these domains, so I'm clearly not understanding the value of domain names with numbers, also called numeric domain names. So I brought on an expert to help us all understand them better. Joining us today is Giuseppe Graziano, Director of Business Development in Europe at Domain Holdings. Giuseppe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike.
First of all, which country would you say is driving the cost of numeric domain names so high?
Well, I mean, this is pretty easy question. It's actually, it's China. I would say, like in the numeric domain market right now, like at least, about like 80% of the players are actually in China, and also like the value is very tied to the economy. So.
Yeah. Okay. So 80% are coming from China. Would you say the remaining 20% of buyers are domain investors in, the United States or North America, or is it just scattered around the world from there?
I would say that is correct. Like 20%. I mean, most of the domain investors are still located in the United States, but there are some domain investors also in the UK. We have like one client there and some other places.
Okay. And so why does the Chinese culture value numeric domain names so highly?
Okay, this is a great question. Most Chinese people, like for them, like the alphabet is something they learn only on a later stage in their life, so they're not pretty familiar with that. So, for example, if I would say for you to spell email and like spell to a Chinese, for them it will not mean much. And it's much easier for them actually to type in numbers rather than type in pinyin, which is like the phonetic version of the word. So that is why. And also the other thing is that each number sound like a specific meaning. So for example, if I say 5, it's 5 in Chinese is wu. So it's similar to wo, which means I. So basically, if you combine like a combination of letters, of numbers, they have a specific meaning for them that has a different, combine, for example, 5-1, it's, in Chinese would be wo yao, which means I want. And then, of course, it's like a dating site. So, and all these things that combine, like they make sense. So for them, it's much, much easier just to type number rather than like go there and type this pinyin, which is longer and
Got it. So the numbers have a meaning associated with them that often tie to words, and they can tie numbers together to sort of make words in some cases. And are numbers like do the Chinese characters for numbers equate to the same numbers in Latin characters, or do they just understand numbers better?
No, they just understand numbers better. So there is actually like a phonetic version also, like for numbers, but it's for them it's much there's even like some ideograms for numbers in Chinese, but the Arabic number, like the numbers that we use, are much more common for them. So
great. And so, we were talking just before the show that you spent a few years in China living there. Did you realize that domain names, and especially numeric domain names, were so important to the Chinese nation then that you do now?
Well, like what I was surprised there is just like the most popular websites are basically either based on numbers. Like, for example, one of the most common email providers is 163.com. And also, like most of the the YouTube of China is called the Youku, and it's like a pinyin version, so like Youku. And basically most of the website, even if you go like on the Alexa rank, you can actually find out that I'd say like 10 to 20 are actually numeric domains that, and the traffic comes mostly from China. Like China-based websites.
So 10 to 20% of the top Alexa ranked websites are numeric domains. Is that what you
say? So I think like about like 10%.
Wow. All right. Whereas in the US, it's I think 0%. I don't think there are any numeric domains operated in the United States. So let me ask you this, Giuseppe. I named some domain names at the top of the show. 114.com for 2.1 million, 58s.com for 245,000, 1001.com for $100,000. My question is, are those exceptions to the rule? We always hear about great domain names selling every day for unreasonably high numbers, or what seems like a lottery ticket. Are those lottery tickets, or are numeric domains selling every day? Number.com, number.com, and even up to 5 numbers like 88888.com. Do those sell on a regular basis?
I would say, for example, for what concerns 5numbers.com, that's like really an exception. Like 888, it was like a name from Frank Schilling. I would say, yeah, that is still an exception. It's something that we don't see the many sales of like 5numbers.com. But for what concerns like 4numbers.com or 3numbers.coms, they're much more common. Actually, we've seen also like 2numbers.com. Like we've seen also like a domain holdings, quite a few sales. So, I mean, and like what you see on Domain Journal, of course, they're only like the disclosed transaction. But there is this very healthy movement of transaction for what concern numeric domains. So
great. So when people are buying 2 and 3 letter domain names, which a lot of investors do, they look at 2-letter domain names as sort of the pinnacle, and 3 letters are, a secure investment. But investors will advise you to stay away from the less frequently used characters like Z, X, Q, and J, because they're just lower frequency, makes the domain name less desirable to potential acquirers and therefore less valuable. Are there certain numbers that investors should stay away from when looking to purchase numeric domain names?
Yeah, that's a great point, and I think like you gave like a great tip also for domain investor who are concerned the letters. Like staying away from premium letters, and like if you make your own work, like where they are, and how to stay away from it. And it's this exactly the same for numeric domains. I would say there are like a few rules that you can pretty much follow, and like to actually give an idea about what the value of like a numeric domain is. So one of the number like to obviously stay away from, it's like the 4. 4 is like one of the worst number in Asia. It takes bad luck. Chinese are And Asian in general also, it's like pretty big in Korea and Japan. Like they're very aware of this number because basically it sounds like deaf. So four in Chinese is se, which means deaf. So like it really goes to an obsession where even if you go like in buildings, like the four is not there, they actually skip the floor, and
So it's like the number 13 in the United States. A lot of big hotels, tall hotels will take out the floor 13. So it's like that. It's unlucky.
That is correct. Actually, it goes farther than that. Even if you take, like in some residential buildings, like in Hong Kong, they take like 14 or like 20, or every number that contains a 4 actually take it. So, and so what, translating the meaning into value, you can certainly see if you make your own research about like the value of numeric domains, you see that like even a 4, if it's present in the number, you actually make the domain drop in value up to 50%. So it's
Gotcha. So are there any other numbers besides 4 that are unlucky for Chinese people?
Not really. I mean, like the 4 is really the main unlucky number.
Okay.
The 5 can also be considered a negative sometimes, but there's also like some other meanings for 5. So it really depends on the context. Because 5, it's more like the negative. It's kind of like it means negative. So, but it also means I. So that is why you cannot really say it's unlucky. As an advice for domain investors, just stay away from the 4 because that just decrease the value of the domain a lot.
Okay. So are all the remaining numbers good, or are there certain numbers that are better than others?
That's a great point. And I think like most of the people are aware that 8 is a very lucky number in Asia because it's by actually means a prosper or wealth. So the more 8 in actually numeric domains, the more the value of the domain increases. Then there are like some other numbers which might be considered lucky or like less lucky. For example, 0 is a pretty good number if it's at the end of the domain. 3 is a good number because it's the sound is associated to shang, which means like to rise, like to be born. 6 is pretty good number in business. 9 is a good number. 7 is a decent number. So yeah, these are pretty much what you need to be aware of. But as a general rule, just stay away from 4. The more 8, the better. And then there are like a few other rules that concerns.
So is 4 only associated with death in China? Do you know if the Japanese culture or other Asian cultures feel the same way about 4? Is it widespread across Asia?
Yeah, that's like 4 actually. It brings bad luck also in Japan and Korea.
Okay.
So it's the same. Also in Japan they skip the 4, like in Korea as well. So it's actually like a pan-Asian thing. So.
Okay. All right. And so all of the lucky numbers, like, the 7 or the 0 or the 8, that's Pan-Asia as well. It goes across all the Asian countries.
I'm not aware of that. I can tell you like 8 is pretty much favorable around Asia. For the rest of the numbers, I know the meaning of the numbers in China. For the rest, I don't really know. But
okay.
Yeah, 4, it's pretty much Pan-Asian.
All right. So when discussing pricing of numeric domain names, you've publicized this concept of a floor price. How do you define what a floor price is?
Mm-hmm. So a floor price is pretty much the lowest. It's the most liquid price in the market. Let's say like if you want to sell a domain tomorrow, and it's like, okay, I need the money, I need the cash right away. You go to marketplace, you come to us, to domain broker, and say, okay, I want to sell this name. And I can tell you, okay, the floor price for this type of domain is this. And that's the price that you can pretty much expect to resell it right away, and there will be plenty of buyers that will be willing to buy your domain.
Okay, so most investors, I think, understand the concept of a retail price going to end users that want to buy it and use it for their business, or they must have the domain. And then there's investors who will buy at wholesale prices, or maybe some price between, something that they can sell for at a multiple and make money up to retail, depending on how much they like it. And what you're saying is that there's a floor price, and that's the lowest price that's fair, but also can immediately liquidate the domain, or within, a few weeks can find a buyer for that domain at that price. And that's called the floor price.
That is correct.
Okay. So what would you say are the floor prices for, 2number.com, 3number.com, and 4number.coms?
Okay. So from what we see in the market, I can definitely say, like, for 4numbers.com, it's about $1,000 to $2,000. That's pretty much the floor price. So I remember, like, I read, like, a post from Shen Kultra, like, a while ago, and, like, it was saying, like, yeah, if anybody has domain names like 4numbers.com, I'll be willing to take it, like, $400. That's like, so I mean,
sure, who wouldn't, right? Because you can turn around and make 2 to 3, 4 times as a floor price. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, if he's doing it and he's a successful domain investor, then you should probably, it's probably a good tool for you to use. So
sure.
But pretty much, like, 1,000 to 2,000, it's the full price for 4numbers.com.
Okay.
And going over to 3numbers.com is there's a year, like, the 4 comes back into play. I would say from 3numbers that contain a 4, the very floor price is 10, but more like 15,000. 10 to 15,000 is really, like, the minimum you can expect to get on the market. Then if you take away the 4, I would say more into 25, 30. That's probably, like, a good floor price for a 3number.com that doesn't have a 4. And then
what about 2numbers?
2numbers.com. I mean, we would say it's probably around, like, the 100K range.
Wow. So that's right around what a 2-letter. Well, no, actually, a 2-letter could go anywhere from 100K, 400K, 500K, probably up to $1 million. But you're saying the floor price, that's retail. I'm sorry. So you're saying the floor price for a 2-number is 100K. What if it's like 1.4?
Yes, absolutely. And actually, this is what we started seeing. And, like, if you check the domain name journal, you would see that there are some transactions around the 100K range for, like, 2numbers.com.
Mm-hmm.
But what we have seen lately is actually, like, the floor price is actually much, much closer to 200K. So that's
so if I had, 83.com, for example, the floor price for that might be a 200K?
Yeah, I mean, if you come to us, and you will probably be able to move the asset within, for, like, the 200K range.
Wow. That's the floor price below a wholesale. So you're saying that there's a Chinese buyer out there that'll probably pay 400, 500, 600,000 for that?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So if that's the floor price for, say, 83.com, and I just made up the numbers, 83.com, you're saying the floor price is around $200,000.
That is correct.
So that means you could probably go out and find a buyer within a few months that might pay 400, 500, 600,000 for it?
Yes. Around, like, 300, 400. Yeah.
Wow.
That's correct.
All right. So we got some floor prices. Now, 114.com is a 3-number. You're saying if it contains a 4, the floor price is 10,000, 15,000, but on DN Journal, that one was assailed this year in 2013 for 2.1 million. Now, why is that one an exception to your rule here?
First off, I think the buyer for that transaction was an end user, so that I mean, like we're talking about floor prices here, which is like the price where like a wholesaler will pay.
Right.
Whenever like you go into the retail market, then of course it's much different. And then we also need to understand that basically, each number like in China have a specific meaning. So 114, I think it's associated with like information services. I think it's more 411 like in the States. So
Right.
I mean that is like one of the biggest reason why you went like for so much.
Gotcha. So there was a special association with that in China, and so that drove up the price. So there are exceptions. You can't just look at the numbers and say, 5 is negative sometimes. Don't put a 4 in it, and there are exceptions to even the rules that we're discussing today.
No, yeah, that is correct. I mean, there's like the science of it, that some numbers actually decrease or like increase the value. But then there's also like, the cultural part, which, it's some numbers like putting together might have like a specific meaning, and that actually, can increase or decrease the value accordingly.
Yep. Okay, so let me give you another example. I think 55.com sold for 2.3 million. And I believe that was this year. Is that right, Giuseppe? I don't have the
I think it was 2011.
2011. So if that one sold in 2011 for 2.3 million, why didn't the recent sale on December 11th, 2013 of 5.co.uk sell for more than 67,611 on namejet.com? What can we say about, if 55.com is 2.3 million worth, 5.co.uk is only worth 67,000?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is it all comes back to the extension. Just because .com is a brand, it's an extension you can brand globally. .co.uk, it's something you can brand only in the UK, and basically besides for end user in the UK, it doesn't know that much value, unless for like domain investors. So this is probably the reason why.
So any extension besides .com, which is globally accepted as a commercial enterprise around the world, is going to limit the pool of potential users. So then it decreases the value, is what you're saying.
That you're totally correct.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. As long as we're talking about alternative extensions to the .com, if Chinese buyers are paying so much money for numeric.coms, why wouldn't .cn domain names be worth even more than the .coms? I don't actually see too many .cns, numeric.cns changing hands.
There is actually like a pretty big market for .cn. I mean, we don't see it that much just because we're located in a different part of the world. But even if you think about what is like the biggest marketplace in China for domains, actually it's called like 4.cn. And if you go there, like it's pretty interesting because you can see quite a few. And actually, like that 4.cn is great to understand more like the floor prices and like what the market is currently set for like different type of assets. Because if you go there and there are like a bunch of domains that are numeric domains that are listed at a binary price, and you can really like start to look into it and see where at what price level are people selling, at what price level are people buying, the auctions and everything. So I think that's like a useful tool for domain investor to understand better like what like the moment of the market for numeric domains.
Yeah, and I hate to admit it, but I'm probably one of these ugly Americans that doesn't speak any other languages besides English, and even I don't do that very well. So if I went to 4.cn, isn't it all going to be in Chinese and in a currency that I don't understand, or do they translate it into English as well?
No, actually the website is also in English. For the currency, I think you just need to make some basic.
Okay.
Just Google it and you just convert it.
Okay, I need to get over to 4.cn and check out what's selling and for how much. And so that is the largest marketplace. It's like a Cedo or a GoDaddy or something after Nick, like in China.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I noticed the domain name is 4.cn. That means death in China, does it not?
Yeah. I don't know. I cannot say anything about that. Maybe it was the cheapest domain that they found, and they wanted to use it. I don't know.
All right.
But
You
yeah,
would think that some of the Chinese investors might be put off by that, a little superstitious, but I guess not.
I guess they're more interested in the investment.
All right. So Chinese domain names do sell. I can go on to 4.cn and see them selling there. Will I see? Do you see just as many .cn selling as .coms?
I mean, we usually do not manage transaction with 4CN. It's something we still do not do. But yeah, like if you go into the marketplace, the prices for CN and also like some other extension, I would say that is pretty much like the authority like in terms of marketplace for what concern like numeric domains, and no matter the extension. So you can also check the prices for .cn or numbers.cn and see where the market is at.
Okay. What's the next most valuable extension after .com? Like if we look at the pool of investors of people who want numeric domain names, and let's pick a great domain like 88.com, and we assign a value on that. What if it were 88.co or 88.net or .org or .info or .biz? Do any of those have any value, or do most of the Chinese investors stay away from everything but .com?
That's a great question. I would say besides for country code extensions in the specific country, I would say the extension that holds the most value after .com is definitely .net. Also for domain investors, and I can tell you that also like in the sale transaction that we see, that's probably like the second best extension.
Okay.
And it's also good for domain investors because like .org, you can probably the range of end user you can sell it to is pretty much limited just because of the meaning of the extension.
And if I was selling a domain.com and let's say it had $100,000 value, the .net might have anywhere from 2 to 10,000. It's 2%, 5%. Maybe if it's a great short word, it has 10%, 20%. Can you assign any? Do we see the same sorts of relative values between numeric.coms and numeric.nets as we do for words?
I would say like the value of a numeric domain .net is probably like compared to a .com, it's something around like 5 to 10%.
Okay. So besides having domains that are shorter, 2 numbers versus 5 numbers, and staying away from the numeral 4, what other valuation rules should investors be aware of?
Okay. There are quite a few. Actually, like a few weeks ago, I wrote this blog post about what are like the rules, and I think I came out with eight like rules for like domain investors for numeric domains. And I mean, they're like the obvious one, which is the shorter the better. So of course, any truenumber.com is worth more than like a freenumbers.com. Stay away from 4, as we already said before. The more 8s, the better. Then one rule that people might not be aware of is that if there is like a 0 at the end, it actually increased the value. So for example, let's say 80.com is probably more valuable than 82.com. Just because the 0 is there, and also the more 0 the better. So let's say if we're talking about freenumber.com, probably 800 it's better than 802 or like 852. This is one of the standard rule. Another rule that the domain investors are probably aware of this, but for the rest of the audience, any number starting with 0 actually decrease in value. So if we're talking, for example, instead of 852.com, we have 085.com. Actually, 852 is more valuable than 085. just because the zero is in front. And so it's actually it's interesting because it's the reverse. So if the zero is in the end, the domain is worth more. If the zero is in the beginning, the domain is worth less. Then actually it's sequences, number in sequence, they're actually pretty valuable. So it's actually interesting. I was speaking with just Michael Berkens yesterday because he has the domain like 345.com. So I think there are only like 7, I think, consecutive, consequent domains. And he was telling me that it was also like in his blog post, like he turned down offers up to 350, 360,000 for a free number.com, which is, it's quite impressive. And that tells you like why the sequence is important. Would be of his peers actually consider lucky. So whenever there's like a domain, for example, a fornumber.com, like truefree.com, that's pretty valuable. I'm seeing pretty big offers on this type of domains that are completely not, they usually don't happen for like regular fornumber.coms. So that would be like another rule. And let me see.
Okay. Let me ask you this. I know that a lot of domain investors like to wait for the economy to bottom out so they can buy. Not that anybody wants the bottom of a economic cycle, but in 2000 and then again in 2007, 8, when the markets bottomed, the economic markets, I think a lot of smart investors were buying then. Because people needed money, so they were selling premium domain names. Smart investors got in and bought premium domain names at those time. I'm not sure if you're aware, but do numeric domains follow the same economic path where they decrease when the economies are depressed, or is it only a factor of the Chinese market that affects the pricing of numerics?
I think this is a great question. So let's see. From like our experience, I mean, like yes, it's a great point. Like the value of domains usually it's tied to the economy, and for what concern numeric domains, I think it's very much tied to the economy in China. So actually, like the thing is, while we have, for example, in Europe, we also had like recession and like the economy stops completely. Like in China, it never stops growing. Like even if it's like slows down, like it still grows like at 5%. But that actually had an influence on the market. For example, like in the last couple of years, at one point, like the economy was kind of slowing down in China. We've seen like a slight decrease in the value of the transactions. Then now we see that it's picking up again, and like floor prices are rising up, and there's many more people actually looking to invest, and the value therefore is like higher.
Who can you give me an idea of who's buying these domain names in China? Are they business people at large corporations? Is it a wealthy middle class? Like what kind? If the numeric domains are so hot in China right now, who's buying them? What do those people look like?
I would say most of my clients in China are like people that have some software development company. And they're pretty smart about investing. They're very sophisticated investors. They know a lot about the market. They know exactly where the market is at, and when they come to us, they're pretty clear about what their objectives are and what they're looking for in the market. So
Okay, so professionals, educated, successful, maybe entrepreneurs or business people, and they're looking to invest in numeric domain names, and probably they invest in other things as well.
yeah, and usually like also the profile is like they will travel. Like usually they speak English. That's yeah, that pretty much completes the profile.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, like like probably like living in the biggest cities, Shanghai, Shenzhen, Hong Kong.
Yeah. So You mentioned 4.cn as the biggest marketplace for buying and selling numeric domain names. Are there other marketplaces that you see a lot of transactions happening? You know, do people find a deal every once in a while on eBay.com still, or through through other marketplaces? What's been your experience?
I would say like the vast majority of them, like 4chan is like the biggest. For what concern the others, there's a few like Sido, or there's Flippa, like an auction site, or like eBay. There's a bunch of, but it's never like very relevant. I think even Michael Birkins like started like the numericdomains.com, and it redirects to some page like to Francois. So there's like quite a few outlets, but the main one is really like 4.cn.
Okay, and I mentioned that you were business development in Europe. You served China and Pan Asia as well. A lot of domain name investors are somewhat reticent to contact brokers to sell their domain names, because a lot of the brokers I've interviewed don't necessarily want to spend their time on domain names that aren't worth at least a solid 5 figures, $50,000 and above. Most won't spend time on it unless it's worth $100,000. If people are looking to buy or sell numeric domain names, Giuseppe, do you handle, 2 number, 3 number, 4 number, 5 number? Do you handle the whole range? Can people contact you to discuss buying or selling those?
Yeah, I think we handle like the whole range up to like for numbers.com, probably like 5 numbers we're still not interested. But actually, like last week there was like a client who emailed me. It's like, I have like this this 5numbers.com. What am I supposed to do? Should I drop them? Should I keep them for a couple more years? I would say keep them for a couple more years. It's it's not very expensive to hold them, and they're just being like registered all over again. So
if I've got 12 fours in a row.com, hold it or drop it?
12 fours. I don't know.
I don't know. But basically, you don't want people to contact you if there's more than 5 numbers, right? 6 numbers and longer, you're probably not going to have much value to those.
Yeah, I cannot probably add that much value. I'm not saying that they're never going to have value in the future, but that's something we do not focus on at the moment.
Yep. Okay, that sounds good. And if people are watching this the show, Giuseppe, and they want to contact you in order to discuss their numeric domain names, or they want to start buying a portfolio or buying single domains from Domain Holdings, what's the best way that they can contact you?
They can surely do by email at Giuseppe at Domain Holdings. So I know Giuseppe is pretty hard to spell. So Giuseppe is GIUSEPPE at domainholdings.com. They can also contact me at my phone number, which is from the US. It's 561-819-8468.
Excellent. And where are we conducting this interview? Where are you right now?
Actually, we're in the office, or
in what city?
Lisbon, which is the city I love. It's an amazing city, and I would recommend everybody that wants to visit Europe to just come over and see this, because it's just beautiful.
Excellent. And it's coming up on 2:00 my time in Seattle. It is late for you. I appreciate you staying late after the workday in order to conduct this interview. If anybody watching has additional questions about numeric domain names that I didn't ask and you'd like Giuseppe to answer, please post them in the comments below so that I can ask Giuseppe to come back and answer them, so that other people can see the questions and the answers also. If you're too shy, of course, you can email at the email address that Giuseppe provided. If you have a moment, I recommend you post a comment. Even if you don't have a question, just say thank you. Giuseppe took time out of his schedule to come on here, share his knowledge, and I'm grateful for that, and I hope that you are too, and you take the time to post a quick thanks. Giuseppe Graziano, Director of Business Development in Europe at Domain Holdings. Thank you for coming on the Domain Sherpa Show, sharing your knowledge of numeric domain names, and thanks for being a Domain Sherpa.
It was my pleasure, Mike.
Thank you. We'll see you all next time.